Yeah. Sean, good.
It's Christine. It's the hotel one. Now I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Contention 1 is counterfeiting. Online counterfeiting is skyrocketing. 70% of consumers use e-commerce by counterfeit. Tech 23. 710 by counterfeit. Online accounts who report new research both counterfeit e-commerce one exponential growth. Online platform counterfeit. The counterfeit. The brand is core counterfeit. After the accuracy is not correct. Practical requirements and responsibility to technology to the platforms. Activity versus eBay creating contemporary knowledge requirements. Insulate platforms with liability lack specific knowledge infringement. This causes shift from platforms proactive towards reactive whack-a-mole enforced by brands. Number 23. Cancel dealing together not requiring e-marketplace takers want to be different text activities to secondary liability contemporary knowledge was not level secondary response specific counter posting for activity no understood right event they move reactive this business knowledge every list brand over this and mood but it will list of the take place in whack-a-mole specific knowledge incentivized platforms doing nothing back counterfeiting with 21. Online internet live with the products of the access to knowledge infringement strong discount like kind of strong vendors long sales of profit regardless of government going limit business been on general management not special to represent brand so love benefit users of platform takes up private peers incredibly strong to be brand new large scale changes like that and necessary reach the burden tickets funny e-commerce the counter Michael Charles Camel 23. Tips and love is discipline liability marketplace organized operator can every knowledge such as too much over the leader property until the birth of brain and take that knows by time printing list under new list the leader for the counter Michael transfers loss of new manufacturer posing liability this drug not also reach the force e-commerce platforms and activity counter Michael Charles destroy grid and spaces including satellites Camel 23. Concept of listers are being coming out of it should be permanent filter for the service and fund for access to attack your space got some kind of space on inside the space to sit on this again point to check out the location cover grid and space and village and way get starving. Scenario 1 is the grid cloud cause extinction. Here's number 21. Electric strength image simulation collapse out independence and red pool rush to space in internet supply chain dispatch field resulting in collapse 16 collapse directly reduce capacity for an estrus. And scenario 2 is satellites. Counterfeit COTS electrons destroy satellites, especially CubeSats, creating cybersecurity risks and cascading debris. Maritime 4. Chemical electrons as well as individual from January space rapidly spread chemical electrons directly that serves by quality counterfeit space very consequent jeopardize space and inability to reassurance by reducing new mitigation counterfeit limit the creation new to be chemical electrons reduce level extra by higher than internal defect dependent metal powers overheating shot by exposed to failure to reliability with tests and there's coming components effectively keeps up relatively much very CO2 component fails and contribute to the yellow harmony center around when never functional realized that including development primary handling the risk unsuitable CO2 and the value cues increase basically rapid action with the pumps and require components test made bring system motor versus habit test now require outlaws and difficult to be necessary to require components management sources technicals satellite field is guarantee escalation accidents entanglement and the following word 21. Given base common world from the new global sorry covering recent combination new values or stuff like something it is believed active take more place has already highly taken reasons of covering new section eliminate retaliation when creating new design common and cycle escalation fit out reaction for something and much more intense much later down the way escalation elevate exponential escalation and secure long use versus escalate escalate China and you can do nuclear discuss with the worst case something escalate for space element rules that may give and use uncertainties LEO CubeSats uniquely solve 6G interconnected networks but part failures or partners just about 24. No satellite can do 6G revolution where we can connect massive data over 6G satellite LEO constellation over time but can satellite tracking via low cost over 40 cubes as integration with substantive functions assume substantive basic components has enabled with space environment versus sensitive power supply object control limited data how to communicate storage interface communication number of satellite tours one to see rest of economic temperature so have capacity performance CPU better higher bandwidth low latency high reliability things content to point emergency technology central safety efficient data exchange provide critical communication 6G satellite otherwise inevitable extinction events so what else 21. Projects can stop consequences 6G technology management contain bounces and disruption functions design widespread loss of being able to copy nuclear access to highly general immensely different modern practices and things during rest of control can be the my technique program limited resources unique ability 6G cable network facilities as managed critical motive events with scale bounces and a couple of 6G rest monitoring managing pressure 6G super unique capabilities monitoring managing bounces or extras debris from satellite failure cause extinction 24. Test ultimate disaster of course space interruption digital because multi-channel becoming my OP because she's something internet object was has satellite block monitoring whether mapping how to deal with lots of getting into without shooting more fields and limited hip hop getting a way blue and creates really global web apps internal balance habit we can not go solve space scenario for risk reactors counterfeit risk reactor meltdowns before 22. Can of course there's going to plan to go into counterfeit state reaction going epic cells having metal has massive radio releases that causes extinction and rails clean energy Rossi 23. There's been a single becoming target has only been on becoming geological mind of getting cold goalies that have like a exchange reaction melting cause having close being atmosphere to think like minutes that reacting member you also visit things that have better with either not some text myself to remarks that receiving very new and spin over energy missile carbon the planet plus a constructed knowledge standard online intermediates from Luxottica versus AMM 22. Quarter of the response to that 5 years know the wind fishing habitat level level of investigate Luxottica versus not dressing way defense could investigate original core condition the emerging government on friend framework and platforms that would not be person now priorities before very close blocking broad claims not to individual whack-a-mole cases key and I think that was normalized counterfeiting for financial incentives to allow us to get to triply succeed. Something you're counting coverage, couple part of the activity, take on this event, prevented, measured these way, kind of this method, management, kind of economic, class, no, be cost, kind of result, being compensated by kind of available, user, objects, company, this other kind of bodies, spiritual, rising, avenue, well, the issue, in that still takes us, body, relevant, trying to maintain the independent, kind of market, the most also to reduce over a little bit, many intermediate walk ups and not specific violations. That's the plan. The United States federal government should determine that constructing knowledge, trademark infringement, domestic contributory trademark liability, and the duty to investigate for online intermediaries, contention to his courts. Eroding construction knowledge for a specific knowledge, which core tends to 12 less the basic established case law, average 12. Economic contract require actual knowledge and construct knowledge, depending on the ability to framework economic responsibilities, running construct knowledge, generally specifically require actual knowledge on the counter required course, because liability can directly lead to establishment of total individual reasonably aiding and abetting, they should be liable. Reason actual knowledge on required is subject to entirely print ready, usually held liable. Because the specificity identifies and reported again, keep the time as one case, all construct knowledge generally important. We find it in the course to optimize the regulation on topic 15. The country institution normally all new legal indicated laws and existing institutions are abilities to normally new active on domestic food policy committee legislative process order democracy can force ID to allow the peace and litigation between providing consideration food policies and research over against anymore. By 20 sources of active use policies access to public to minority groups only by sides key structures on law. Regulation solves extinction. Code 21. The main new rules and institutional capacity for the 21st century terrorism pandemic the by the modern network of public many have effective and efficient ritual on the better regulatory strategies once enough at all. Specifically to create responsible drone usage. Crew top 16. One like any personal level, kernel, if it's utilized up to usually can make inherent value, risk, division of regulars, rather risk, and control and the world of the theoretical evidence by your strong desire for holiness, capital, revolution, and develop, little structure, literally creating effect, control, liability, accountability, government, control, also, opportunity to regulate valuable dangerous activities. The U.S. preemptively struck China with hellscape drone plan by August 2130. Trump departed America's unnamed hellscape trying to get China to meet August 25, eligibility, Trump was not anticipated hellscape and any military goods by PLA. That triggers immediate nuclear war. Trump makes it likely, first in 25. China companies hold the second hold over what BC the U.S. intention to once written on hell kept using against Chinese naval forces to escalation of full colony nuclear exchange. Harmonizing trademarks and torture revitalize the field. Program 8. Emission was meant to the space to prototype formally dominated conservation wide effective alternative and activities of enemy condition for legal money alternative accelerator amendment loss research practice torches and the beginning of torch of interference pledges to all general stress claims and torch claims and claims on instinct fields trademark law set down for rental distribution trademarks to be replaced for reassignment from dual life fields with independent dual life continue to decrease in non dependent on statutory development at the federal level. Construction also is a flexible rule allowing for active enforcement. Verse 11. Different liability to not based on reason no torch sections and standards liability must be placed on new taking to determine the authenticity of the job check portion of the check is not limited liability non specific contract for more different cost and definitive like common flexibility but it's in a regular generally known probative reason of the directly on the marketplaces. Contributory trademark liability is a global model and harmonized anti-counterfeiting law. C10. Some sort of the counterfeiting harm losing integrated fortune international fortune seems to be considered like to statement law in U.S. leading bank or light nation with U.S. courts and global common same trademark liability includes other courts how many harmony law global is linked to where allocation one as possible. Only that occurs maximize the cheapest cost avoiding principle. Verse 11. Because we're harmful by cheapest cost avoiding online by this investment in the anti-infringement of the trademark of the brand the investment in trademark listing for the special monster for the right place for you with inappropriate focus on change for the banner marketplace for the place role. And e-commerce buttresses global counterfeit pesticide trust 24. E-commerce new channel legal pesticide on the circle title because regulatory apply to physical retail not behave online and with e-commerce and just some counterfeit pesticides live in the well-known brand names. Counterfeit pesticides release greenhouse gases and toxic chemicals. March 16. Counterfeit regulation will have regular further store harvest supporting common inject Fuji cloud fertilized testing damage China Ukraine also operate to sample chemicals GG pollution storm wild. Extinction contaminants global ecosystem chapter 21. Pesticide global provide the pesticide and nutrient catastrophic ecosystem pesticide present in the environmental pollution causing balancing your body and human survival. I'll send these out after. E-commerce is straining toward law but reestablishing the cheapest cost of waterborne principle self. Chapter 24. Generally, you reviews toward the cheapest cost of water and lebanon and kind of most cost of fixtures safety red new reason modern com and no ideas of political relate the foundation around the vicinity how much brick and mortar is held so it's easy of a and design to be on the that take title. Creativity reproduce whack-a-mole. Kaiser 21. Marketplace active fake proactive process or security product which will let you about the counterfeit back and remain ahead of inaccurate or fake information make it impossible to track back no matter resource to neutralize back in marketplace or person or reaction to be one marketplace to offer is incorrect the correct going to do that and chasing dead ends. Specific knowledge cannot be reconciled with the common law torch. 1408. Constructing knowledge based on the quality of common law because one party can be liable for creating unreasonable business nature based on expected action third party code cannot be reconciled with the general justice about control working through all these decisions and continue to take stroke present adopt the standard critical liability consider for the general knowledge of this court erroneously found insufficient. Andrew's sending those 3 cards out.
Can we wait to get those cards?
Of course.
Hilarious. Sent.
Okay. I take like 9 or 2 to collect. Yeah, no worries.
You're on the NDCA Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. No.
Sent?
Oh. Your email says no name for some reason. Jerry, what's up with that?
Yes.
No. And it's like no at the end of my except I'm like no.
Sorry, give me 1 second. My word is just like stopped right now.
Oh, sure.
Can't. It's just like I have the blue loading. I can't scroll. Apologies.
It'll fix in a second.
You should. Hopefully. I'll give it 1 more second. Doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Are you plugged in?
Oh, I'm not plugged in. Sorry, that's probably an issue. It's running a little slow when I'm not doing optimization.
How does the plan solve counterfeit parts that have already been sold to anyone who owns any of the equipment that you've listed on the
Even if some counterfeit parts have already been sold, the plan would reduce future counterfeit parts. Counterfeit parts are a linear risk, and reducing the number in systems is a net positive.
Okay. I guess the eBay case was in like 2010. I mean, presumably there's been a lot of time for people to sell counterfeit parts. Why haven't those been sufficient to create whatever cyber attacks or escalation you say is
First of all, it's not necessarily cyber attacks or cyber escalation. Our impact scenarios are different. But take, for example, the grid. In the case of the grid scenario, our camel evidence is much more recent on that, and it's saying how they're being integrated in the grid right now, and even a single failure can cause a collapse. And that is just
seems like
on the way. And then the satellite scenario, our Mira evidence is extremely recent. It's from just a couple months ago, and that talks about how right now counterfeit consumer off-the-shelf websites are becoming more and more prevalent, and that's where people are getting the parts for CubeSats, which are just now becoming more and more prevalent. And our Driss and Masri evidence indicates that CubeSats are just starting to come online right now.
Sure. I want to ask about your Pierce evidence on the grid scenario. The very first words of the card say things like extreme solar storms and high altitude electromagnetic pulses are going to cause grid failure. How does the plan solve
It doesn't
those?
say that they're going to. It says those are examples of something that could cause grid failure. However, we've isolated a specific scenario of how grid failure could occur due to counterfeit chips.
Okay, sure. Presumably the government is trying to avoid counterfeit electronics right now, but they don't know, like, which ones are or aren't. I guess when they're, like, browsing to try to buy something post-plan, what about that changes?
Yeah, so it would change. Okay, first of all, none of our scenarios are necessarily specific to the government. Nuclear plants are not owned by the government. These satellites are not necessarily government.
I mean, it's the same for any private actor, too.
Yeah, okay. So for any private actor, the point is we stop them at their source. Right now, when you look on an e-commerce website, you can't tell whether a part is real or fake. Even government contractors, a lot of times these chips are obsolete, and the only way to buy them is from secondary markets, including, so when government contractors have to buy chips or any private actor, the only way to get the necessary chips that they need is from e-commerce sites. Our Mira evidence is very good on that. It talks about how obsolescence, part failures, and other issues like that, and necessary specifications mean that the only option.
I want to ask about Advantage 2. Your evidence says that current standards eat away at a principle of tort law. Why does that upend all tort law?
It says it erodes tort law generally. It erodes important tenets such as the aiding and abetting tenet of.
Where's that tenet key to, like, regulation? And why is that key to all
aiding and abetting
law?
is first of all, it is key to tort law. Our Agris card indicates that it's eroding the tort law. Our Graham evidence indicates that the reason that tort law is declining in the status quo, as well as the Sharkey evidence that I read and the Bernstein evidence that were extra.
Wait, the Agris card says it's bad for contributory liability.
Yes,
it's sure. Maybe the place.
Yes, but reconnecting torts and trademarks is key. Torts or contributory trademark liability is derived from torts. Our Graham evidence indicates that the reason why, quote, torts die is because of their separation from the field of trademarks. The plan would reconnect that.
Okay. Yeah. Sent 5.
5.
Let me know. Turn it by 90 degrees. No, use the other desk.
That, yes.
No. Oh, okay, sure, that works.
Oh.
We're
Give me a second. Done.
Yeah.
Are we?
It's sorry, I'm downloading right now. Okay, I'm good.
Rich? Yeah, I'm good. You want Sean?
We're good.
Let's do this.
Cool. First off, the reform count about the United States Supreme Court should mandate legally equivalent injuries are compensated with equitable damages and establish clear safeguards and legal standards to adjudicate the sublime reasonableness standard and accept the use of no fault injunctions, particularly environmental and drone regulatory schema, and third, the American Law Institute with reverse taxation, unless it adds an addendum to the second restatement to include trademark on end labor disputes and prevent the Department of Defense and Department of Energy from purchasing microelectronic goods from online intermediaries and determine that electronic products sold to government contractors and farmers require investigation for potential trademark infringement by both the online intermediary and trademark owner and ensure that microelectronics from Purchase from an online intermediary means a center of quality and require the online banking transactions have human oversight. The majority of the United States Senate endorsed by the United States Federal Judiciary to allow domestic contributory treatment, liability, and its duty to invest for online intermediaries to foreign no-fault law relies on existing tortious litigation is inefficient and undermines the terms presumption. 15. Corporate works to regulate the test of jurors and their judging suits related to compensation, harms and ethical suits can be taxing and do not provide redress. A more successful reasonableness is the most efficient of the body move. Avoid damage to work, increase the compensation, introduce the course necessarily. No one system on by cutting transaction consequences, particularly transparency, shut out, trigger, restraint, on emergency power degrees, democracy domestically and borders global, autocracy, accuracy, power, box 3, emergency power, second strong, emergency emergency voting machines holding his deputy democracy, both emergency accuracy, power, emergency power, kingdom, emergency IS, emergency vegetable, declaration village police, use of emergency power score, get the president to power, emergency termination, and hard to stop weaken the NDCA as a cargo against abuse, extinction of the disaster, so less corporate level transparently limits women, and next climate change, inequality of power, we should be concerned for locking in future tech, such as AGI space cinnamon, surveillance, security, to not security, dumping the world, there's destruction of humanity's potential, counterfeits of the duties, the last resort, banning online intermediaries, from selling counterfeit goods to the duty constitute to authorized platforms, worst case, they check the goods, and 01AC Campbell, here's the conclusion of our trigger, they left out the money laundering problem, it's a lack of human oversight, next house of China is that the United States should fully fund a household-based electronic consumption voucher program, and the People's Republic of China will concede that counterfeit sales are high now, and that the US sales don't take massive steps, a massive part of China's economy, DXC, under China leads counterfeit, about 70% seized by custom more prevalent than any other country, consequences would result in Chinese industry market worth $600 billion USD, account for 2.1% of all trade, 90% of world's counterfeit originating from China, this IP says it was $3 trillion in the next 2 years, it's thing, large statements for goods from China, active person middle class, star value prestige, shocks the Chinese economic class, CCP legitimacy, forcing diversity, isolation, Taiwan, and regional climate talking war, growth, keep legitimacy, retiring employment, nationalist policies, reading business of the economy to improve justice, how to restore funding for being competition culture now, how will forward diplomacy can duty based, national surrender, how like to go competition pushback, get separation tactic answers, how the opinion is greatly influence national sentiment drive, progressive responsibility to war, go to nuclear for more. Invasion of time and regression into Brazil, China's nuclear threats to the interview, let's hear how let's not play access to battle retire, but China's not political, futures in China, how come people threats to say, US and justice, another 600 US dollars, British the Indo-Pacific corridor, realistic efforts to so discourse Japan was important defense of basic section nuclear threats against Tokyo, next up, Steve Gronk, the IPR, and statutory court and HC action disenforcement, which balance, Chris level 2 Africa constitutes distinct levels of prediction, and of course, prediction in realistic countries, legislative framework prediction, translation framework, laws codifying evidence, writing in the legislative books, go neg 1 limits, they so top to include all types of minute court rulings, and HC tricks that from the scope to ground just by paying extra dollars to owners, or making a decision slightly faster with no link unique against national security. Prediction about these been a problematic security logic competency. Prediction how you become around security and law shown control by secret must be at all costs. Lots of revenue has a national security disruption notion IP little distinction and the only government secret IP exists to create testing info by imposing limited monopolies to share extraction to make control message challenge to our national security. Depends on business prediction is problematic. Appropriation of trademark national security implications seem unclear emissions caused by secret or technically kept secret and credential. We lost how states control is for security surrounding Christian IP for analysis. No logical security lead to countermeasures safety IP security pay. Not many theft and info sharing. Our government position have close to the subject just page 4 less movement about security. Launch production alloys to Mexican American exceptionalism and risk extinction but neg for desecretization rules of 13. Where to conditions that will lead in national exceptionalism and rationalized disposition of addition to chamber doing millions financial value of it was more ideological and sustainable. The US in 700 times it was a market single million large business for review. The US is 128 country away allowed to produce carbon debate as the answer was to nuclear winter working with guaranteeing equivalent was the most action was that exists now final earth we could have war issues to national security require a new military globally crazy because these talk about radical comparative ship shipping based launch where offering which is served from information of our nation more integration with nations, access to reliance, declaration, calendar, the US immigration, league to the foreign states and members of the private sector, may rely on attention to the United States, to be a contributor to our liable and duty to investigate for online intermediaries. The United States should enforce this declaration to public and private rights of action and narrow its intellectual property protection jurisprudence to domestic contributor to our liability. It solves the case. The declaration of reliance makes the law obliged to respond to our regime. The court has imposed the law of treaty situation agrees to say, make your union running committee government by law, other municipal law of the states, how to be required to enter legal agreement. This is not a agreement. How treaty must impose obligation money under law that's supposed to follow the common law. Let me recover treaty agreement body declaration. Yes, it's consistent with ground. Unilateral states and brief flag the law, unilateral agreement that caps coordination from style law, short 18. Covers the requirement of the committee on the color action agencies. Covers the committee to make a withdrawal. Covers the withdrawal returns required by intention to withdraw. Without a collective agreement, we really intention to nothing below advice. Do not consent to cover this law. Because the relevant this means NDCs for law, other treaties, unilateral declaration others. Presumably, a chemist from the real separation of unilateral connection that lead to new US law and save application customs, facility, environmental, and nuclear risk extinction short of law. Unilateral declaration of great assurance and certificate and to prevent effects of climate change impact, nuclear compliance, emergency human, rights, territory, integrity, to avoid regulatory targets of legal binding and unilateral declaration. So, the legal binding is to train them, robust, collective, repression of good, where we can control one such other false choice, follow the crop, and measure. 1. Pass attacks and natural disasters, obviously thump it. 2. They cannot solve existing cannabis thump since eBay was 2010. 3. No blackouts on 19. Here's not a good gun boost and not demonstrated. Give us the greatest return by second bit targeting extra now. Cause market any sense one sense require boost operation now. Let's go look at what's the up. It's unlikely. 3. 4. Actually has numerous off costs, jamming, solid attacks, debris, etc. Plants obviously not key. 5. No space discount cover 18. 6. Which is not going to go. No access to over reduced to narrow which is particularly what is the DS for fresh studio. Runs the effect with how the part of DS for fresh studio. Those were 6 HP states. Over 3 will costume. Operating this tradition, one rate of possible to athletes, and then possible to win sports related. We got specifically but actually don't access. 6. The plan is obviously not key to 6G. So innovation obviously solved, which is fair evidence is several other countries such as China adopting it solved. 7. The US terror, the no impact bomb, and new 20. Actually, experience manual. They use this to murder of thousands of people. GM is not a single one from biological creation. So, advanced training of isolation course experience has been and stable around property. Years of testing and expectation and like terrorists. Resources stable around patients of the liver to easily weaponized. Whereas the terrorists and reverse are virtually zero. Now, no degree cascades, even the worst case, is going to low with no impact 2017. Castor heavily is something smart improving how you or check over to orbit. GBS and absence. The one was so huge. The number is so few. We don't worry here. GO stats moving for the same thing. Also only over 1,000 kilometers. Probably the worst case on standing on tiny less than 1 in 10,000. We don't lose access. Real life, all the factors make custom even less the problem to be straight away well another system will start making collection orders to magnitude less likely moves up slower velocity this makes you much sooner small objects to the month launch up to try to avoid it constellations slow are launched including a pan in D-orbit no mail down same level 19 license for the worst access that we can always say just for instance distribution now chase this credit roll for data consideration terms of higher non blast rabbits which never got cancer now we're in train but then other technology can start to kind of short flows on fuel and was spending because any fuel that worst occurs to manage space significant technical people actually small are uncharged towards advantage same marks that double turn themselves. Running towards are expanding the tech towards are martial and alcoholic if you not key to regulation from name. Who locked against the 20th century ago. The except for strict liability, intentional affliction of distress, understanding of injuries, and debate product and general expectation towards years faded a century ago. As we record damage civil with sex with his wife and share against a road company wife against the tower. Alcoholic government. The plant's insertion of trademark laws and plans towards the legal means to just unfair trade. A miscut graphic made. Law treatise liberal towards students include structure to adjudicate under culture, innovations of behavior regarding the state law, towards clothing said these interests the same field treatment laws is still rule attention to come law. It's historically this stars helps you back, so we always get US to UNC. What? It would have been and then what? One. Well these not access to Title 19.
Wait. What? Okay, that's fine, I guess. Their card does not say extinction. Pesticides and
Cards doesn't say extinction, pesticides, inevitable class, obviously.
in other countries.
Other countries thump to NC gets indeed. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, status?
Status quo is always a lot of cards.
Okay, only reason to reject the team is T, right? No other theory.
Yeah.
Alright, counterplan with China DA, what does it get you?
Counterplan with the China DA creates uniqueness
How?
for China's economy because the reason that China's economy is declining, one of those central reasons is consumption, and we think that resolving household consumption would temporarily stabilize the sentence.
That's fine. Net benefit of the reform counterplan, is it just China?
Net benefit, it's internal. If we kick planks, it's the straight turn. But
Okay.
It's
Alright, yeah, let's actually look at the straight turn. So first of all, have you disagreed that the replicator initiative will drone strike China by August? As of the one in C. Have you disagreed with that?
like
The one in C hasn't.
Okay. Have you disagreed that torts can stop drones?
torts can stop drones. We would displace torts, not increase it.
Okay, but have you disagreed that torts can stop drones?
The 2NC gets to make that
Yes,
claim.
I'm asking you, as of the one in C, have you?
No.
Okay, so if the replicator initiative is coming and torts could stop it, but you agree with both those, how does that not disprove your uniqueness that torts are already high now?
Torts are high. Our argument.
If they were high, would they not already be stopping the replicator initiative?
No, our argument is that they could. You're unique.
They could. Okay, they already could. Do you have any evidence on that?
If torts are high,
So
you read
how
the
can
intro
you
link that
stop
torts are key to stop tech. Your other card
Okay,
about
yeah,
tech.
let's look at the first card actually. The first gram card you says uniqueness from 2008 and talks about quote infliction of emotional distress and quote prenatal injuries and their application to tort law. How is that relevant to the plan, which is establishing?
Yeah, that is our argument. The torts that you talk about are important are high now.
No, that's the part that you said is uniqueness. That
No. You're
Okay, so
you're
what
misunderstanding.
torts are high now?
So the part that you read says that like the part where
That's the
trademarks
part
are
that's marked
torts.
before St. Mark's cards begins. So
Yeah.
I don't see how that would be the part that we read.
No. Before and after your card begins, he talks about how the parts of tort law that you say is collapsing now is actually stable. The parts that you think is collapsing are the parts that are relevant to whatever.
Okay, the
regulation.
same uniqueness card, the only claim that torts are high says they are, quote, higher than they are a century ago. They were higher in 2008 than they were in 1908. How does that get you enough uniqueness to resolve the advantage?
Right. We think it's sufficient, otherwise you can't
Okay,
resolve
we've
it.
read evidence for 2024 that tort law is being strained now. Do you have any disagreement with that?
Tort law being strained now is proof that, like,
So
the plan would make it worse, obviously.
tort law already collapsing means the plan would make it worse.
Our argument is that the torts
no
that
open
are
process?
decreasing right now are totally irrelevant to the
Okay,
advantage. The ones that do not.
Yeah, actually, let's look at the link there too. I'm going to read a direct line from the Graham link you read. Quote, however, lawyers no longer address these claims in tort clothing, and courts do not look to tort law to supply the pertinent rules of decision. Instead, we regard these claims as properly addressed by and under the distinct fields of labor and trademark law. This says that torts are already being replaced. How does that not take out uniqueness?
Our argument is that trademark law is what replaces it.
Trademark law is already replacing it then? You agree?
No, the plan would replace it.
Okay, this says that we're already replaced by trademark law.
Right.
It says they're not.
No, this
First
is
of all,
other
causes
things are
close
being
as well.
replaced.
Other
Yeah.
things are being replaced.
You're misreading
And
it.
replaces
You mind if I keep asking questions during prep?
That's fine.
Yes.
You don't have the strictest obligation to answer for sure.
Okay, can I keep asking? Alright, we're gonna take prep 10 minutes starting now. The link to, so the AF claim to unite trademarks and torts, how would that not resolve the Graham evidence, the part that I just read?
No,
It says there
it says trademark law trades off.
Yes, it says it currently trades off. Am I wrong in that claim?
No, it says it currently trades off in areas like marital disputes, which is listed in the uniqueness card. Those are totally irrelevant to the rest of the app.
Yeah.
Or to the advantage.
Okay,
Yeah,
stop prep, 9:37.
The paradigm says that he doesn't listen to anything outside class.
I thought he would listen to
No, he
Oh,
he walked out.
yeah. I thought he was just closed cross. I thought we could keep asking.
Oh well. I think he's like deep in his seat. 2 is decent.
Oh, should be faster.
Did we get it?
Hmm?
Did we get it?
Yeah, should we?
Low key. What if I run to the restroom real quick first?
Alright, I think we need to go.
I'm gonna go refill my water actually.
Close it.
He's not prep.
Who's war debating?
We have. Just make sure. Did the doc come through for you?
No.
Okay. If I need to, I can resend it on Andrew's computer.
I don't see the doc.
That's fine. It might take a second.
Oh, I don't even know his password. We have 9:37 by the way.
Let him mark down left.
Linears are neg against Berkeley Prep and Woodward. We are AF against Pace. Pace and Leonard from Shawnee Mission East.
Which team do you coach?
Washington.
Oh.
Russian's down.
Oh,
Shane's
yeah.
the one that got Woodward.
Okay.
You need to sprint, bro.
Yeah, dude, you're cool. Catch your breath, honestly. Don't get the speech out of breath.
He runs the 100 for our track team too, so he's like,
I got
right there in record time.
Did the Marist kids shoot you a look as you were sprinting past them?
He was going too fast. They
Yeah, they couldn't
see
even see me.
Tracy did coincidentally show up like the moment you walked in.
Yeah, I carried it along like physically.
The document is there with you, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's good for an order?
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. First, counterfeiting and torts. To Congress, the advantage counterclaim, the security claim. Advantage counterclaim meaning the big reform counterclaim.
Wait, what?
The reform counterclaim.
Yeah.
Then the security.
That reform, then security, then you got declaration, then the China counterfeit's good. Turn this out.
Wait, so K is right after T Congress and before advantage counterclaim?
I said T advantage counterclaim, then K, then you got.
Okay, and then yeah, that makes sense.
Good.
Take a second to breathe, bro.
Yeah, are you still ready?
I think I should be fine.
Okay, cool.
The heart rate's
If you're
fine
ready,
now.
you're ready.
Group 1 and C, 1 and 3, they're all about great counterfeit collapse, interactive system, and response to accidental threats, executions. 1 and 2 are all about motive and hardware failures and software failures. They're not responsible for hardware scenario, but the black box is wrong. This symptom does not exist when the chips are failing. Space 1 and 3, 4 and 5 is wrong. There's no fault cause in space because QSAT causes nuclear miscalculation because the states assume worst case scenario the chip failed. And preemptive cycles again, you posted their evidence and does not assume recent changes in the balance of power, which overwhelm all causes. Now, they counterfeit failures bypass secrets to the US but not trust diplomacy when the has failed. Now, group the next 3 are all about 6G, it causes extinction. Do not contest that. Bad disaster, X causes accidental biodisaster, and nuclear accident, not just bioterror. There's no all causes 6G because they drop modeling, and also I thought it was the key to connectivity to 6G globally. Even if 6G technology developed locally, our scenarios about global communication links, they cannot solve the debris defense is wrong. You drop the uniqueness evidence from where you're supposed to stay there by 7 years, indicates that the debris defense is degrees increasing now cascades, collapsing global communication, hitting cities, polluting the atmosphere, with plasma that causes extinction drop. Now the defense is wrong. It's old, not too project, which is a new era, which is about 23 post-dates evidence by 4 years, but they cause extinction because they collapse cooling system, invading the planet for decades. It's like a hydrogen bomb that's dropping explicit evidence. There's no, they basically drop past the size that cause extinction, well then drop, but it's analytical, there's stuff is bad. Our car does say extinction, they drop the modeling from burns, which means that it does cause extinction, because poor quality, because the environmental destruction burn off, that's body China. Now towards, answer explicitly here, they drop 2 cards, e-commerce, first is charge, e-commerce, restraining short laws, re-establishing the chief cost avoider principle solve its impact, uniqueness that posted all of that's Bernstein, and the other Bernstein card, they drop the general and is better for choice, that's means the CCA, so their evidence about developing 100 years ago, not the SARS-CoV impact uniqueness from last year was said to explicitly plan to solve the straining and control, which definitely says to solve the impact. Now, we do not supplant unfair trade process is horrible in this, but we prevent bad use of choice now. They drop the impact. Choice organized regulation by MBA, dialogue and flexibility, and you know that choice spill over constraining irresponsible use of the drones like the healthcare project. So you know there's an external impact and we'll win the turns to drop both of these cards. Now, yeah, we increase liability, which is the explicit kind of tort that
The Montani index on the counterclaim.
Montani index, I'll get to that later. T Congress. We meet grammatically. The app uses a plan to strengthen Congress protection of trademarks, delegated alignment, and functioning. Supreme Court repeatedly protect IPR under the Constitution. That's Model 21. And strengthening IPR includes enforcement. IPR enforcement is a subset. And Oscar, TK, IPR protection of state market laws and hold the practice and assessment, strengthening IPR protection, strengthening enforcement, nation. Do not strengthen enforcement, also IPR protection, measure both employee with statute enforcement, none of both enforcement or non-disciplinary protection for IPR. If only limits matter, then only your app solves. Or counterfeit only quote 2012. So IPR protection, not necessarily reform. For 1, literature. This app is necessary for protection of intellectual property rights. Knowing 20 second treatment of often necessary to provide effective, not means the product protection of IPR, and then knowing the party for 2 innovation. Codes are complex and rich, the only ask for time for research. Congress days hit stay on the neck. 3 is an app ground. 4 is codes of like e-commerce injunctions and P-tab. 4 decision. We have intent of finding new meta to analyze multiple indices and semantic equivalents. Functional limits solve the office. Cafe Congress executive countermeasures regenerate management domestic pick no office because their apps are all counterplans and so impacts are non-unique and default to reasonability and provided subsequent consultants of international IP flows app. We'll insert that here. The advantage counterplan. 12. 1. Do the counterplan. Do the app with the combination of playing shield and benefit. 2. It definitely links to the benefit. 3. Multiple counterplans are voted for players and rational plans to solve the worst. No, some statutes are voted because no one thinks a counterplan is a good idea. If analytically sort of solving, no analytically sort of justice. Reject judge K. Force me to give 2 zeros with untenable when they get blocked. Once you bossy so the nuclear energy paying away to zero carbon energy. Respect to realize extinction 2019. Chemical extinction do not know cascading. Because one of the socializing cloud see the light but the names of warming and more carbon nuclear method. The only way to happen they make extinction like it now. Group all the first cards all failed not using toys with them as a result of CCA and the inconsistent choice right now. The Sharky Abbott and Bernstein job. They say that the threat of the restatement is not about using the restatement now, but not about using the restatement now. It's solving the inconsistency with the 5th wave of e-commerce is what our Sharky card outlines. And this is basically absolutely the counterclaim. Now they testing chips failed. This is what Devin is trying to get at in class. That's for 1 is subcontracting organizations by authorized contractors. Those contractors subcontract unauthorized sources because OEM cannot make them anymore. It's not profitable on account of those Tripoli and Mura. 2 take satellites. Cancel the amendment obsolescence of the specification mandate. Buying from unlicensed sources in the first place. That's Mura. 3. They're impossible to acquire. Custom 18. EO level recording manufacturing system. How many people evidence of have most of them license not even make 39 years of current post. The wall you level down we go to more having contract dollars or just use contract post. And 5. Testing fails. 1 of the liability will pass the process and fail later. And it's ignored. Because here it says it's cheaper and faster. Do not mandate by backers or anything. The banking plan doesn't matter. We're not money laundering, but The China stuff is wrong. The Montgomery unit is wrong. They literally advocate for the app. Says Taylor's fail now, but she's calling for it, so that's the plan. They advocate fails, but insert green here. And says other states have failed. That's uniqueness for us. Now, it's not presumption because they dropped the CCH fail. That's shocking evidence. Now, China Blake is wrong. Do both of them and the content and plan, no working plans, and media, do the kind of plan over other issues. Kind of like to be texting, function, key to ask under minutes, and the opportunity, definitely to text. The comment on the channel, big safety, technology, video, 3 hours, litigation, public generation of power, power, play, comment, contribute to lively, is a common law doctrine, don't confuse, channel, not the right, not the introduce to the common law choice. No internal one instance was delivered or asked to do is answered by Trump. January 6th, the no amounts impact is no spell. Like 20 people don't you know who stand on judges. Except for the only one to do about it. Also, part of it wasn't. So we basically about money, future comments, also like conversion deck, which opens China now in the past security framework. If I unique concepts of solid actors and links up the uniqueness and outcomes for chili stop. Any other term moves out. No defense or offense, the new service class do both. Open up the linkers for the status quo, do each. And security in here, but both app, which I don't plan, do the app. Non-research to support the all extinction outweighs eternal irreversible. Denies agency, no chance case, or imagine prospect and deal. Do not allow negative generalization. One of these specific so they should be specific on what all fake analysis must occur to the state security if better and transform the conditions of failure. Like 15, security, community should be how to understand parameters of peace, security, this negative peace, I know why it's not trying to roaming conditions when a positive TV and security robbing and short signal to be zero, then will allow and can security operation desirable to human rights with speedy content village. No, the links are not unique and to the status quo, but the purpose of the voting issue, the security someone else on this side, force double to zero offense and worst we can separate reps. You need to put on one positive justification to prove the claim on balance code and no impact. Government 15, security for the country over the custom duration plan control concentration speed out. Human goes summarizing others and one year from the others, the council never turn ideas more things directly goes. Despite moving business and continuing with the process cannot count reference to the kingdom card after our total counter security and so being able to continue the impact the audience to trouble all issues to policy going market there. Links is wrong. To propose to continue factual there and coefficient is done one and the all can solve. One balance cannot solve to change substitute all causes 60 sides of one women balance solving. No make it zero. Bagels, floating pigs, utopian private acting international bureau all voting issues which we definitely avoid screening cannot solve the aspects of trademarks and critical caliber. Not all treatment from IP fact that one is deals with cannabis, not stealing MP or inside yellow. Unilateral declaration cross apply all perms but text laws of the US were declared plan into the declaration, which is the plan, meaning according to the canon, but domestic laws any law can actually be adjudicated in the US includes treaty Title 13, general country to the fact include treaties related to international law. Domestic defines what race is safeguarded is to find the act of protection, means that the act of protection does not have to be domestic and permanent to the canon plan. Now, there's no internal because there's no spillover. LI, well, you've never been obligated only if saying to return that obligation with the internal procedure management and public ways before the tech cannot solve because altering domestic tort and trademark law. See, last credibility. Constitution training, anti-rapper research, design, and sharpen, producing content, and new facts, and case of course. I found it to be body free for no factual action, police, health support, and such. After being an NS approved, considered based personal certainty, and Trump loves the internal unilateral declaration do not guarantee compliance, and there's no nation states fill in, no 18, 15, no university compatible nations are better from the excellent everyone's global government, global government, primary, with also the global climate change, and the limits of what certain nations figure to do, sometimes the global supermarket, how to make it easy, that's what AI never takes size around different nations, and benefits, quite differently, and seems the levels of like if stop, hundreds of voters and all streets, and the two from conflict arguments, we can become a new stuff, and take research, and to invest all that's without taking this was also taken from your own advocating for the SPC. In fact, this that is wrong. Perm do both on the campaign and perm condo, but non unique chances for money is dead. Have to turn about checking out pretty following your country to play into frustration over the message. In fact, it's a hard story by an opening for the day was the loading that data put up and turn into some new down more down knowledge appreciated because pretty miles of master for weakness that's critical as available and or if overwhelmed uniqueness evidence and not say the counterfeit uniqueness no link after not stop China. We sell counterfeits to other countries to maintain power and counterfeits on another economy, including 15 counterfeit particularly able to go into that in China. Social investors of this episode 13 manufacturers, marketing offering and input to the product, getting sales of the product and innovative fee. Most of the external benefit can be service side. You know, solve the term better. That's Jones on protein if we get the term. But there are evidence of bomb. GXC can see that person counterfeit always insert green. And one of these can see the low noun structure will insert yellow. But that because the economic class, because the company has the pressure of the university sector, because the public investing in the problem. Mark that economy, they're kind of cannot solve. This is about debt and other structural issues, but it's too slow.
Vertex percent as well.
Yep.
But,
952.
Okay. 952.
Yeah.
Wait, Devin, how many do we have?
with 937.
957.
Yeah. Great.
Are we good?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright. So I want to talk about Advantage 1.
Okay.
So your scenarios about global space miscalculation and attacks.
U.S. space miscalculations.
Space miscalculation. How do you solve aggression from those other actors who are cyber attacking and jamming space assets?
I mean, if it's actual jamming, attribution probably solves. But we're talking about a scenario where counterfeit failures in satellite systems, quote, technical malfunctions from the Ageli evidence,
cause the state to miscalculate and assume that China is doing these things. And diplomacy doesn't work here because when one of these satellites goes down, US is like, hey China, what's up?
So,
China's like, we didn't do that. And more satellites.
so when one satellite
causing
goes
miscalculation
down,
deeper.
how do you solve debris hitting those satellites or satellites colliding naturally, which you're actually
Satellites collapsing naturally isn't as big of a problem. Uncontrollable dead satellites, i.e. satellites with counterfeit chips in them that have failed, do cause these because they're uncontrollable and just debris spinning
How
out.
do you
These
solve
satellites
global
increasing now.
counterfeiting?
Huh?
How do you solve allied assets, global counterfeiting, spreading everywhere?
About satellites, it's a US specific scenario. Agelli says the US miscalculate, but the 1NC has not responded to the claim that the plan models globally. The Bernstein 10
They
evidence
explicitly
is
conceded. They explicitly conceded
Yeah.
on China.
Okay.
Yes, they had to get that to
Okay, alright.
China internal link. Bernstein is so specific on quote contributory trademark liability in the quote e-commerce context is uniquely key because other courts
Contributory
have reached
trademark
conflicting
li-
jurisdictions on the same issue.
Other countries follow on. That's fine. Go to the advantage counterplan.
Okay.
Better space parts impossible to acquire. So post plan, presumably you would want people to buy better space parts. If they're impossible to acquire under the status quo, how do you create a replacement?
The phrasing of that kind of obscures the issue here. It's not we want them to just buy better parts because obviously they want to do this. It's just that better parts aren't readily available on these marketplaces, and the buyers on the sellers of these marketplaces have an incentive to allow counterfeit parts to keep being prolifferated on them.
So if they have the incentive,
and the
what
chips
does
are only
trademark
available on
policing
second.
do to stop the root cause of those incentives?
Sure, it puts liability on those marketplaces to proactively go out and contact the sellers like, hey, are these products counterfeit? Are these not?
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
take
fine.
proactive measures to do that.
Yeah.
Bernstein indicates
Alright,
this would
alright,
solve
thank you.
and would burden share appropriately.
Reliance Declaration, what was the text flaw?
It says that the US should declare the plan, then do it, which is the plan.
Okay, just,
From the
okay.
it's a text law in that it just
Okay,
US should
cool.
declare, should enforce
Cool.
it.
That's fine.
Enforce the plan.
Okay, that's fine. Advantage, one. Or presumably your add-on of the advantage count plan. How do you solve warming?
I guess 1AC Rossi indicates that nuclear energy is paving the way to zero carbon energy, but strikes would probably derail that.
So, presumably Trump is shutting down nuclear energy now. How do you overcome that?
I guess we can read more qualified evidence that says that I actually got a piece of evidence on Trump is explicitly not shutting down nuclear. It's actually surprising.
So
It's
the plan rests no
the card says even though he's doing a lot of everything else, but he's not. It's surprising.
Okay, cool. 952.
That's what I think. Yeah. They just Okay.
Don't mind if I run to the restroom.
I'm not sure.
It's
It's all the way
Yeah,
down.
I know.
Yeah. Y'all
We've
need
been
like
in this room 2 rounds in a row. This is the second round in a row. So,
Yeah.
thanks.
keep getting like 2-1 something room. Jaden,
What?
do you flow in paper or computer?
In neg debates, there's usually an F debates on paper.
Wait, what?
Because in neg debates, it's like the benefit of paper flowing is diminishing utility because you have to flow 10 off, which first of all, massive waste of paper because like
Come on, man.
10
Don't even start telling me that you're doing this to conserve paper.
I mean true. The other thing is just it's a lot of QACs are really fast and flippy, which makes it's like
Harder to flow on.
like that is unflow on paper. It's like
Yeah.
it's like nah.
Fair enough, I guess.
Most QACs these days are like, it's a car race. It's a car race to make the highest quantity of arguments.
I think he's saying something.
I don't know.
I don't know. I just never like, just flowing the computer, when you're going from like doc to flow to doc, I feel like that would have a bit of a transition time though, right?
No,
Like,
the
that's my
thing
main
is,
concern.
I look at the flow and I type my answers on the doc because
Oh, on the doc.
one and R is just reading straight down. So I just think
Oh,
about the answers.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's what a lot of teams do. It's what Michael Ross does, in fact. You know.
Just flow, alt tab, type, alt tab, type.
Yeah, yes.
I mean,
Bro, no, split screen even, like.
no,
you-
I saw the double monitor text start to pop up. Like,
Oh yeah.
it feels like it should be more efficient, but like,
I mean, debate real estate's like tough to come by a lot of times.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it's.
Especially because like I'm a fascist, I'm gonna take the best table in the room.
Like, yeah.
What are the kids gonna say? No.
You know those tables with like little like squiggly desks?
Mm-hmm.
I hate those.
They're the worst.
You stand up without speaking stand, and Devin's computer like crashed down and
Mhm.
hit the ground earlier.
That's a liability.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's how it works, I guess.
Computer falling and shit.
The collapsing computer. We lost some computer collapse.
Yeah. Oh, just tested. Gravity does work.
Gravity works, yeah. we're still on planet Earth, guys.
Yeah.
We're
At least in this room, gravity might work.
I remember, so I had heard that they had found like honey in an Egyptian tomb,
Okay.
and it was like still edible, thousands of years later. Okay.
Okay.
And
but it
so-
had like blood and stuff in it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
but when they tested it, it like chemically was still basically identical to honey that you would get today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that like caused me to be like, why didn't this honey expire? Right? Like all food expires when it sits for 1,000 years. Why does
Yeah.
the honey
Maybe
expire?
1,000.
And then it made me think like, hang on, like what if there was something else that worked that way? Like an object that just didn't apply to gravity. It's like, no, gravity doesn't affect this one.
Yeah.
Just like decay doesn't affect apparently honey, gravity doesn't affect this orb. And so it can just not
It just
fall.
exists.
It just sits.
Yeah.
There are weird gravity places on Earth, certainly.
Where's a weird gravity place on Earth? I haven't heard about this.
Or they're like, I don't know. Whether or not they are tourist traps is another story.
Okay, so there might not be weird gravity places on Earth.
But like, you know, there are places where people like they feel a lot lighter and stuff. Could be, or like,
Could be.
but like, yeah, it's more of a chemistry thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like non-Newtonian fluids, like cornstarch, you punch it, it hits you hard.
It's hard, you poke it,
Yeah.
it's
You
soft.
punch his back.
There are exceptions to every rule. I see.
Alright, hot shot, you ready to cook?
Cool.
Where are we
Let's
going?
go.
Give me 6 seconds. What's the order? Okay. The order is actually wait. I have to get the doc open so I don't forget anything. So I hate to give a wrong order. If my computer will load. The unilateral declaration counterplan.
Okay.
And then a bin for bench.
Oh, okay.
The counter will solve the whole case. It prohibits the same behavior as the plan, but through a unilateral statement instead of domestic protection. That's the Odermatt evidence. Now, the first argument is cross-applied perms. You can't let them do that because they did not explicitly say them. We get to answer them new in the 2NR, and they would be new in the 1AR if they were to extend them. Text law that was taken down in cross-ex, but there is no text law because it mandates it through unilateral declaration. Now, perm do the counterplan stuff is a voting issue. The counterplan doesn't increase its protection of IP. Instead, it commits to a set of obligations that would result in adopting contributory liability by appealing to international grounds that results in the same outcome but can never include the plan, and it bans the plan as well. So you cannot vote on perm to the counterplan because it literally bans the plan. Now, counter competitions solely involve mandates. What 13? Every action is kind of effect on something that butterflies able to create. Whether cause and effect is applicable even if the highest costs are unfathomable. Creative effects kills grounding banks any counterplan which claims follow on non-competitive. The counterplan suffers multiple, or the perm suffers multiple topical burdens. 1, it's the pronoun refers to U.S. as possessive and exclusive. 10, the pronoun is possessive determines a particular agreement and not be others that commitment applies to each individual file separate and distinct from each other. Unilateral declarations are covered by international law bound to other states. LR told unilateral declarations on behalf of the state groups. Obligations under ILO jurisprudence under let the state accept obligations of others ILC has to provide guns and unilateral statements. Second is domestic obligations are separate and distinct. Q6 obligations under ILO do not translate to domestic law obligations. U.S. law addresses the dualist framework that international law obligations are separate and independent from domestic obligations. Third, protection occurs by law. McKinney 5 by law preserve resolves the synonym of enacted means by law word phrases. 8 resolve is enacted by to establish a law. Unilateral declarations create a legal obligation but not law. Shot 21. Unilateral statements are diverse obligations that have legal consequences of action while not law in statute. They constitute obligation. Protection requires a general legal regime, particular acts or preservation. The value 18 terms promote protection and preservation are used. Arbitrarily equivalent consequences and acceptable analysis of legal literature. Categories are the opposite protection to generalized legal regime. The preservation measures taken for wrongful act of the system aimed at preventing offenses limiting legal consequences. Unilateral declarations are narrow particular questions under 18. So states commit to a particular state of affairs. The rest of the American unilateral declaration for our interpretations allowing non-domestic illegal instruments blows the lid off the topic. They could ratify treaties, create new norms of custom, implement the law act, or pass any CEA that otherwise limits it or protects the next ability to clash. American law is a key functional limit that can change the topic for promises or source of obligation. All up 18. A statement an obligation to form act through not necessarily law differentiating the form of such from obligation has to distinguish action between unilateral form and unilateral effect. Now the next argument is no spillover to international to international law. The counterplan's president installs ILA international cooperate relies on states' trust that their counterparts will follow through on commitments. Only the counterplan also makes commitments enforceable, ensuring that they can be trusted that sources by in good faith is keeping the island on letter 18. My state's quite good faith. They explain how this commitment may arise from the background of declaration for instance, and statements have to be undertaken to try to sort of nuclear test away to buy law or criticism of local knowledge, what is an increase unintelligible practice and survival service principles of international legal pragmatics is good faith. They ensure the comprehension without the moral or political events and reinforce the importance of pragmatics for construction of a legal system. But it just said, but their evidence just said, their evidence says it needs to be clear terms, which the counterplan says, which the counterplan does because it does it over the plan, which is pretty clear, and it is restrictive enough. Now the card is also talking about the next card is talking about another guidance document that was issued, not the counterplan, and it's on that because the counterplan is clear. The counterplan fiats enforcement of the declaration. Anyway, now they say can't solve. This argument was a blip in the 2AC, so give us new answers if they try to blow it up. But zero link to it. All industry needs is the policy, regardless of the process. The outcome is clearly to result in contributory liability, which solves this Odermatt. It's incredibly certain. Bank safe. Instead of evaluating unilateral declarations, best practice that minimize uncertainty within the principle of good faith, trust, and confidence are inherent when the same problem is essential practice and surrounding the base of good faith. It's also binding unilateral declaration, even if it's not perfect. Broad historical practice proves good enough to do business. Staring belt 19. Strictly unilateral acts of the movement goes widely uncodified legal method. As some complicated the lens of relation function not fit any codified rules on any unilateral act and unilateral acts of daily web relations to the social acting with the personalized such as unwritten loan and the punches in the sense of survivable usually suffice. Plus there is no business investment scenario in the 1AC, so there's no reason. That's key. They say Trump thumps the internal. No thumper. The counterplan creates the good faith and the countries other willing to cooperate, which solves. Plus, our evidence indicates that countries, when they make promises, usually and follow through on them, then they usually follow through. Other ones. It also they say no global governance. I'll extend the impact here. ILO has extensive weakening standards to prevent cooperation, prevent war, and environmental destruction, which go nuclear. That's the Schwartzy evidence, and their evidence does not say no global cooperation right now, and it doesn't say that the countries will actually successfully address these issues. The impact was was essentially dropped in the 2AC. Now, we need one fun, flexible counterpunts are key. IPR protections doublers for prime mostly fast testing, app sandbag best offense until the 2AC first not speakers. Prep advantages and big plans. Second, logic condo bad is an unpredictable non-resolution rule that the next and next status quo that should always remain a logical option. Arbitrary rules are worse than no rules allowing the action. You know that they redraw the balance of every debate. Third, innovation, fallback tracks, encourage new training research. Defense, one DMU adding more efficacy, peaking value until they're trying to be liabilities. Two, screw inevitable. Tedious at speed, highlighted framework case rejections. Go one, definition of consensus. There's none. Two, force firm. Process campaigns of both piece plugs. Third, cancel flex to research dictates the block. Fourth, research inevitable. Situations, best arguments will always go for it. Display twin C counterplans evade their offense. And it's a logical force to judge to vote for one worse than the status quo. The 2AC was pretty unflowable, so give me leeway. If I drop anything, that was a one-line blip. The advantage. First advantage. Grid impact is hopeless. One, there are no cyber attacks. Second, the grid is segmented and attack. The actor would have to target each segment with localized tools. That means a wide-scale blackout would require more resources than it's worth. That's the Larson evidence. There are all causes. Those are in 1AC cross-checks. I'll insert their evidence for reference. Now, there's no space war. Data is expensive, hampering widespread application. Fragility of their own assets creates a deterrent effect. The OST ensures cooperation, and itself is impossible, which means that countries are not confident enough to attack. That also is defense. The 6G impact. There's no internal link. No reason satellite failures cause debris, and the plan is not key to 6G. To SQO innovation solves this inevitable, and other countries like China will adopt it, but there's no impact to terror and biohazards broadly. States don't want to risk giving anything to terrorists. No one has ever died. People need advanced training, don't have the resources, stable environment, and patience to create such weapons, and it takes decades. That's a Blum and Newman evidence. Now, nuclear plants are a dream, not a nightmare. Schellenberger says meltdowns at worst kill 4,000 people. That stat has been disproven, and it's 200 at most. This is because the fuel is tiny, so a big boom is unlikely. Now, there's no debris impact. Spaces too big for frequent collisions. Debris is spread widely across multiple huge planes and small objects quickly deorbit, clearing spaces, which takes centuries to snowball, but adaptation solves first. Intervening controls coming online, check debris. Now, there's no biodiversity loss is not existential. Hassid, unless you have to continue to current education for 200 years, so using diversity, why would the world be not spectacle for wasn't speeches, and the using were less diverse than humans less capable of rational responsibility will make adjustments, but they've conceded that the pesticides are inevitable in other countries, which the plan does not solve. Now, the torts advantage. Torts are strong in expanding. Their 1AC Graham evidence says tort law is facing, quote, a general expansion that occupies far more. Then it clarifies that some torts, like marital disputes and racist allegations, no longer carry weight. Those aren't key to regulations, but since tortious regimes are expanding generally, the status quo is solved. Examples are neg, strict liability, emotional distress, and negligent injury have all expanded legal jurisdiction, at least some spillover. That's Graham. The Sharkey is wrong. It says it prevents risks in new commerce, not drone regulation, which is entirely irrelevant. Bernstein is wrong. It says expectable action can be reconciled with specific knowledge, which is irrelevant. Now, the Agris evidence is wrong. Specific knowledge doesn't upend all tort law. It only hurts reason to know, which your evidence says is key to the court system. Now, the plan is pro-trademark, anti-tort, which means every impact to advantage to is a dissent to the app. Torts and trademarks are legally distinct and mutually exclusive monikers. Torts are administered by common law, which this is dispelled the moment trademark law is codified as the remedy for unfair trade. That new spillover at best and triggers their impacts faster at worst. That's the Graham evidence. Torts are on the rise. With Max 22, torts are rising cost of competition 2% of GDP using insured state. The torts is growth 6% next using inflation GDP.
Boss?
Yeah.
You say that trademark is not common law. Are you willing to stake the debate on this?
Wait, what?
You said that trademarks are not common law and that they displace the torts. Are you sure?
We don't think trademarks are usually in common law or
Okay,
changed
how about
via
do you have any evidence about our app in that context?
I mean, not about your app, but we think trademarks are often modified via statute.
Okay, I guess the dog evidence has something else to say about that. You know that declaration. You say that, I guess, promises and these declarations do not constitute domestic law. Is that why it competes?
That is one reason that doesn't compete.
Let's just go to the content text. It says the government should declare this and, quote, the United States federal government should enforce this declaration. You have declared the plan and enforced the plan domestically. How does this compete?
Right, it enforces it in the via the international framework, not by adopting it by law. Like, it doesn't codify it
Sure,
in
I guess.
statute.
So the authorities for this would derive from international standards, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it would be done
Sure.
under an
Where
international
do-
law.
What international law?
I mean,
Which one?
just, like, it doesn't have to be,
Can you tell
like,
me?
via a certain, like, international
question.
framework, rather that
Sure.
the U.S. says that it is going to do it under international law.
Which okay, fine. Contributory trademark liability does not exist in international law. Domestic tort systems do not exist in international law. Where does the counterplan get the authority to do that?
It doesn't matter if they don't exist right now in international law. I mean, it doesn't exist in the U.S. law either
does.
right now.
Well, like,
No, it doesn't. It's if the plan isn't happening, then it doesn't
Okay,
exist in
let me
U.S.
be clear.
law either.
Contributory
Counterfeit creates that
let me
obligation.
like contributory trademark liability is a way of assigning liability to marketplaces. The plan changes the standard used to administer from specific knowledge to constructive knowledge. Now, contributory trademark liability as a concept is not enshrined in international law yet, like at all.
It's
How does it
not
happen?
in U.S. law either. Like
Yes, it
I'm
is.
confused. The fact that
Okay.
no, it
The
doesn't.
liability
It's not
is
being
the
adopted
constructive
right now.
knowledge is not. I'm talking about the liability in the first place.
Right, the liability can be enforced by the U.S. as per international law. Still, in the world of the counterfeit.
Okay. Does there exist contributory trademark liability in international law? I don't care about like which standards, but like does that exist
I
in
mean, no,
international
it's
law?
not being adopted right now.
But then it has to exist for it to not be adopted.
Does
Correct?
it exist?
Like does it exist in international law? Yes. or no?
It's. I don't think countries are doing it right now. If that's your question.
It doesn't have to exist.
It doesn't have to exist. Then how does the counterplan? What authority does the counterplan draw on?
Well, the counterplan draws on the authority of international law.
Sure.
You say you quote fiat the declaration. Well, like, is an intellectual property right a public or private right of action?
What are you talking
Is-
about?
Is an intellectual property right a public or private right of action? Yes or no?
What are you asking
Like,
about?
the counterplan
What
text
concept?
says that you enforce the declaration through that intellectual property rights are a public or private right of action. Why doesn't this just
Right,
be
it does
plain
not
text?
increase its protection or domestic intellectual property.
What are our steps? Cool. We're good?
What's the order?
How much track do we have?
I don't know. Let me.
302. Okay. 257.
You said what?
257.
257. You said you gave an order. I didn't catch that.
Advantage counterplan?
Okay.
Security K.
Security can.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a sec. Yeah. Come down.
Can you get that again?
Advantage counterplan?
Okay.
Security K. China DA.
Got it.
We're good?
It's still
Hold on, Jimmy. I need to. Yeah. Is this thing where it doesn't load and then I hit like open a bunch of times and it opens a read-only copy? Or something?
Yeah.
Mine always opens read open. There must be something that I'm doing in my settings.
Yeah. It does it
Yeah.
once I click it too many times and it tries to open it like 7 times.
Now mine's Handopi. Every single Word doc that I open that gets emailed to me gets opened and
Dang.
read only.
I think it's because files downloaded from the internet are open in like protected mode.
Okay.
Or something.
Alright.
Not too
Okay.
sure.
Alright.
I got it. Then.
Cool. Good?
The measure counterplan can see the permutation is the test of combination, no combination, combination 3. Saturate, unset, or failure, combination, confirm, temperature, high temperature, no combination, to data, enhancement, employment, influences, chemical, changes, things, degree, impact, hardware, cash free, combination, remove, food, empty, extra expressions, on a level, warming sound, no common concentrations with nothing blind, 98%, represent not food, actually, it's going to see level, first thing, so way, upstream, back to the alkaline, minor, left, that's no, that was CC style, for extinction, security, K, can see the permutation, is that, some combination theory, needs to reject the argument, not achieve anything else, it's arbitrary, the CCP just have dropped the impact, essential CCP, backsliding out ways on time frame, no new one year assist immediate, economic charge, thanks support for the regime, forcing diversion, new pressure, in Taiwan to regain popularity, that association process, but towards the U.S. with the regional nuclear defense collapsing, mutual assurance, that's Anderson, towards the case collapsing, Asia, and successful conflict breaks cooperation, every existential threat, causing every action by collaboration restrictions, where Japan accords on a hair trigger, and then good one, consequence intimation, losses, penalty, English, any power principle, collaboration, allows for extraordinary global government army, or into purchase, the North Stressing, nuclear imperial alliance, Russian nuclear weapon, conceivable, listeners, gender training, growing confidence, and federation, U.S., Japan allows for still the question, nuclear influence, the other, all of the above guarantees, existential nuclear move, and exchange with the exchange of new constitution, I can be honest with you, second go to upper left of situation, accident, flashing down, horrifying, not able to reface the issue, and then a prophecy, and don't know effective ways to support China, Russia to counter, hard rises in Japan, move to right, just by definition, nuke weapons, 2AC, 1 prediction, 12 links in that benefit, because the short attack counter 2AC, number 2, Chinese counter now isn't as important as they think it is, even the economy is slowing down, the key to link is public sentiment, which is steadily worse than decisive bliss, the line is definitely worse, guarantee class of both parties, unique is kind of all, you gotta see the country goes trouble when they see the deflation, China, lose the race for resting Russia, the target, without refunding, lots of rebate, by infrastructure regulators, the regional financing needs, China, and that's the list with, now 590 logos of an extra bar, the French Street, growth, control, growth rate, similar to magical and investment credit out for assets, like stimulus, a different country, and also has an electronic customer actually for the last time with for better stimulus, regardless, new year, new China employment is steady, and they hard as the debt generation, you want 1231, China, you guys, 4% in terms of higher money Trump, or else they were progressing with the quickly just only equal steady commit, and the stimulus comes to borrowing, they're recovering, shake, 1231, China priorities coming to overcome, domestic priorities and hand mission provide, except 5% by the 8th year, uncertainty, or actually overcome the hard work. Now, 2 3, it cannot overwhelm kind of the key Chinese economy. That reversely causally triggers decline for 1 AC first time. 1 is revenue, red trade trillion because of weak banking regulation is sharply growing market that's which generate rich more than 1 billion customers in power because of production which 10% in global economy or 0.5% China. That's what's over 1.5. GDP 2 is the 1 million China that companies results in social unrest, shows 6. Pretty government system will be on residential businesses for trade. And the holdings companies will have historic money out for trade conversion. Government mostly businesses, employers, social care, 100% of the bad competition, social problems arise. 3 is trade, housing exports, display the trade economy logo at 19, economy 70 export economy goods, manufacturing system, GDP, needs remaining growth, entry employment 1, understood, the good system for operational instability growth, SKW, holding industry, total export about 2, 1, upward like to do trade economy 2 AC, 4, exports to other countries solve the needs is completely asinine. If they only stop counterfeit exports in the US, they can't solve any case because China was just stabbed the market threshold for solvency having protection that completely class the market for counterfeit, attacking the Chinese economy. It also spills through globally. That's what I see Bernstein I'm inserting here. This is a beautiful line. They confirm for me and Tracy process, so it's just that counterfeits for everywhere in China. 2C5, debt burdens, prove uniqueness for there. China's economy seems to will destroy growth anyway. Capitalist on top of the class nationalists driving aggression. 2C% is horrible because see China's economic stable now, it'll come stumbles, they'll spend trillions fixing it, which is about a unique swap. Go back to unilateral declaration. All promote the issue tax ban the plan, so they're incoherent. Now, 2C6 takes to solve the criminals question. Majority should not miscut core class. 2C7 no structural cost is standing that is strong, just boosts the brain. It's already unique to system asset class now. It's fatal for diversion, frame it through the link back to you, test that. China could fix in the long run, but a sudden shock at the end of conference. It's unique plan. New groups not solved, which before. Doesn't mean our head currently both China stock about we don't channel. He comes to low low and HTML inflation factors that there are few chances for other policy for high quality growth. No DXS indict, it's asinine, or the internet partners China is debating using online platforms, which they explicitly solve. I'm going to read another link. It's impossible to decrease kind of without taking economy, going to take signal pressure economy based on local company while the champion in the West, Instagram kind of without hurting West economy, play 5 minutes, market upwards 25 million. Back to the advantage kind of warming starts protest that the strong story around submission to the era for the hottest summit, Iraq warnings about warming, like grocery collection, climate change, because I'm machine sharing, life and death, water stretch, catastrophic, open first, because we can reach help, warning correctly for new Instagram water level, I fall interest too low, my name, I'm retaliation across the capital formula, arrested terror for regime, as one can correct loss, run down, I'm a speaker, but probably protest the population becoming increasingly more the government, it's again putting public goods more than having to quickly lose the civil answers, downfall of the regime, continue theocratic control, cost of nature, 1. Tension to run to the world through civil and news. The key lies to Iraq, which is saying, you have to Iran, it's for me, as you have some other access, and they should say, a team to crusade the Nazis, you are just the most best stroke progressive cyber. That outweighs some time frame. Actually, back to the link. More evidence 219, trying to make Libya's kind of revenues. I think it's 8% of GDP, 2 over 5% of global trade. That's the lifeblood of global trade. No list 3. China measure on global economy, 80% of global GDP across the biggest economy, capturing about global GDP. A global mission driven globalization or countries the benefits of lower costs. That filters uniqueness since cinema's not now any risk going out.
Cool. 937.
Sorry, no, I already said this right.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
The 2 and C did not read like the drone's impact defense card, right?
Yeah.
Stop at 146.
Yeah. Moving on.
The order is advantage 1, advantage 2, the counter plan, and then the China DA.
The unilateral declaration conflict, too.
Yeah, the unilateral. Oh, sorry, the advantage counter plan, the unilateral counter plan, and then the whatever it's called. Is it? Or,
China.
yeah, China DSA.
Okay.
I'm sending out the cards right now.
Oh, I also got that. Is that
Cards are sent.
oh, shoot. Leg ball.
Or the two blocks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are two 1 AR docs.
Yeah,
Yes.
both same.
Did you say both the same?
No,
Same.
both
Oh.
Same.
Let
I
me.
hope they're not both the same.
Yeah, then I was like, why?
Telepathy. Oh, there it goes.
Is the Peckham card in the dock?
Yeah, it is. It's the first card.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm still.
Yeah, me too.
I can like consolidate.
Can I get the order again? I wasn't paying much attention, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. 1, 2, advantage counter plan. I'm gonna do the like add-on and impact turn. Unilateral declaration, China DSA.
Hold on, I'm gonna copy and paste. Which doc is first?
I believe Andrew's dock
I
is
think mine is first.
I don't know which one.
Was the one called
Oh, one
R6.
round 6. Yeah. R6.
Okay.
Then I'm fine. Wish, are you good?
Although actually there's a couple cards at the bottom of my dock that are gonna be on advantage too. Sorry, not the best organization by me in terms of the cards.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Coast teacher can probably just throw out exactly.
Sorry, one second.
Wait.
Cool. I'm ready whenever.
Advantage 1, kick it, impact defense, concede it, advantage 2 outweighs, advantage 2. Contributory infringement is a tort doc, specifically knowledge e-commerce conduct directly each way toward law by barring liability of platforms that aid and abet counterfeiting. That's accuracy and ground. Otherwise, torts fall back on slow development of regulation. They drop the dong evidence from the counterplan, says the torts are common law. There's no trade-off between them and the common law torts, which zeroes the link to the dissent. It has a long history. Peckham 05. History dating back to at least as far as 1924. Correction: trademarks are common law, and the twins was way too light on this. You can't spend 40 seconds to read one total card when you're trying to straight turn advantage, and they can see that drones outweigh all other impacts. Are the fastest impact in this debate. I'll do that in a second. The only card that say that torts are up is from 2022. Our evidence is from 2024 and 2025. I'll get to that in a second. Sharkey and the Bernstein evidence is good. They basically dropped this. They just said it didn't apply, and they said it says that CCA solves broadly and it's a reverse cause, so it's more recent and a lot better. Even if e-commerce is one vector where torts is straight, that spills over. Frame use the twin C conceded that, and 2025 is the year. We'll control the unique space. 2025 is the year of tort climb, but the plan solved. Gleason 219. Top rating these territory from making case of program discussing against unlimited region my territory from me because they lawsuit industry out of control. I think lawmakers believe Torah from making their say economic limited Republican lawmakers Torah from top priority so even for descendants on multiple Torah from popular government list of leadership of the best scoring center making Torah from top priority 25 to the top 0.7 gain track. Absent the plan torts plan this year makes it try die because they sponsor the internal league. Williams 116. Government and also good for the general assembly testing getting Torah everywhere else, so we know we're seeing a failure comes in whether there's this related to which meaningful Torah reform. Mark that card meaningful Torah reform. But the absolutes by increasing liability is Bernstein, Sharkey, Clark, Agris, and Monzavi. They also can see the Monzavi re-highlight from the advantage counterpoint. It says the lack of cheapness of the word restrains for law broadly in every other solution talk. That means uniqueness flows out of this question. That makes it try or die for the app. Whichever side controls uniqueness wins. You should live to die another day because we're all going to die in 4 months. I'll do the impact debating here. Towards optimized regulation by increasing dialogue flexibility that solves every external risk and turns the counterplan and the dissent by balancing incentive reducing tech. That's Monzavi and Cohen. They drop drones. They drop drones. Use drones towards building constraint irresponsible use. That's Kurtov. Otherwise, Trump's sworn to Hell's Gate China by August causing immediate nuclear war. The Troy Ferguson less than a month ago, and the impact happens in 4 months. Reject. That means it outweighs, and we're all going to die in 4 months irrevocably. Their only main argument is that it doesn't spill over. But all of our evidence, the Agris card, the Monzavi card, and the Clark card all says that it spills over. Either way, uniqueness flows after, which makes it try or die. And the advantage counterplan. I'll answer the impact turn here. First, it's too slow. First, it's too slow. No time during this case, 100% happens in 4 months, which makes it try and die, but no run impact. Call 19. One thing I probably not said I'm willing to avoid the Ayatollah national war that showed no misreading of American powers. They were sharp like right. The U.S. would threaten the regime power and would be limited strike. And on unilateral coalition counterplan. At the top, Jimmy screwed up when answering theory. Always said with trust by Netflix, and there's a reason to reject the argument on the team. Even if there's a reason to reject the argument on the team, they drop solvency advocate theory. You can reject the argument. The TVC clearly flagged the counterplan about specific solvency advocates to the affirmative must be rejected, which this counterplan does not have a specific solvency advocate. They did not make a weenie argument. It is a voter for argument to take irresponsibility in education, which forces bad debates. We agree that you can reject the argument on the team, but that means you kick the counterplan. They don't get crossed up from Kono and Netflix. 2 hours too late. 1 hour choices are made from block mistakes. They get flex. They just need advocates. They can still read whatever they want. They just need a solvency advocate. We'll concede that they get Kono. We'll concede that they get Kono, which solves flex. Clearly, they could have case this. They could have just cut a better counterplan that actually solves the affirmative. Either way, they can see the PDC evidence on Netflix, which means that the debates are already biased with Netflix, so you should default affirmative, which will drop. Even if then they get cross-stitched lapse, then reject the argument. And no judge case. For instance, enter to 2 hours when untenable when they get the block. This was dropped in the block. It was explicit in the Tweezy on the advantage counterplan. Now, under advantage, the counterplan does not solve advantage 2. It does not solve U.S. torts. For means they can see the Dom 22 evidence solved towards the U.S. doctrine of part of common law. That's Peckham evidence. We will concede the argument of permutation to the counterplan, which says that they do not do the common law for the U.S. And 2NC cross-stitch clearly says how the counterplan competes. That's the deficit. The counterplan competes because it does not domestically do it. That means it doesn't solve torts. Doesn't exist in international law. Cross-reference horribleness, and the counterplan is not forced. U.S. courts will not entertain enforced trade laws under foreign law. That's in 2013. I laws blown out. Andrew said Trump does, but the Twin C was good on the impact, not how it resolved it rightly. And no impact. You can send our lawyer evidence. Global governance is too nebulous. You can't solve global events enough. This indicts all their evidence means it's at least question when the case is at 100, which means it outweighs. And they drop the permutation due to all non-mutual pursuits part of the counterplan. It doesn't pay the plan. It does still draws upon international authorities. Good. They have no net benefit. Didn't answer it. Andrew was explicit in which terms he read. He gets across body because he said the words on another flow. Either way, term non-mutual exclusive costs 100%, and they did not answer it. 2 hours way too late. Projected 2 hours. Internal stuff by Trump is not credible enough to revitalize it. Don't need to do much work because it's too slow to turn on scenario. Try or die because they didn't have turns case. It's over. Now onto the China dissent. It fails. China's econ lows, quote, falling bond yields, declining GDP growth, and Pacific consumer price inflation page, the concerning picture that's Hampstead, posted all their evidence. Unique is counterplan can't solve nothing, or unique is overwhelmed to link the permutation to both solves. They're right that revitalize all China's economy, then the plan is to drop in the bucket. And no link. Counterplans are not all China's economy. They vary that they're part of China's economy. They're only 8 billion of China's $18 trillion economy. VR, regional initiative, other things linked to the outweigh the links to the plan. China's other regional money sources and thinking otherwise racist. Challenge wrong. Zero to the DA says it's not only about one side. The links are all wrong because China isn't dependent on it. Insert, but no links to sudden shock. And Trump's terrorists did way more than the APCO. They're 145% now. And Russell Andrew said Trump dumps on the democracy stage, no evidence post-terror. But after the impact drop means you know that absolute 100% not sure about this. VR regional initiative, others overwhelm the links to the plan. China has other money sources. And it'll answer the new assurances impact here. Assurance isn't key to impact. Studies 418. Proving something like okay, around the world, security and new killers and quantitative analysis, focusing on defense back analysis, English getting hard design analysis might not be adequate. This defense is not going to deter our problems, centralizing build sense that within a certain likely hedging applies to the word and places and not involve nuclear probe. Either way, case outweighs its try or die on time frame.
Cool. 257?
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. 257 starting off.
add the unilateral declaration counterplan, and then advantage 2.
China, UI, then shoot. Got it. We're good.
Okay, yeah, I'm just getting my flow and all that in order.
No, fair enough.
You have that order again.
Yeah, sure. The China disadd.
Okay.
Then the counterplan, and then advantage 2.
Okay.
Well, my computer's still lagging. But hold on a second.
Is that on Nova?
Yeah.
Same. It has to be plugged in, or else it just kind of sputters.
Yeah, Jimmy made me download some debate app thing, and I think it's also gotten worse since then.
I thought it was debating. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Is everyone good?
Yeah.
Where you are.
Chinese diversion outweighs the 2AC drop team. Practice means they have 0 defense to our terminal, while we have the defense to their uniqueness. Immediate economic shocks, tank support for the Chinese regime, guaranteeing diversion and escalation while collapsing nuclear assurances, ensuring retaliation and extinction. That's the 1C10. Evidence that independently outweighs one. Our Hogarth often says that diminished alliances puts both Japan and Korea on hair trigger list, which causes all-out nuclear war in East Asia, with Russia, Japan, South Korea, and North Korea escalating every hotspot. The 1AR defense is from 2018. Come on, they dropped that. It suddenly escalates every single great power, and their evidence is not about Japan, Korea, and Russia, which means that we massively post-state. Now, that massively outweighs the case on time frame. Remember, no matter how persuasive Andrew is in the 2 era, in order for them to solve torts and drone escalation, they need people to go through courts for months, hire lawyers, then use judges in a Trump era where he's gutted everything to sue drones, and then wait for the DOJ to slowly shut them down, which takes forever for them to solve. If the impact is really that fast, then there's no way they can solve it. But the inverse is true for our dissent. The act creates an immediate perception of counterfeit shutdown globally that hurts China, making every country in the world crack down immediately on counterfeits, which means that our impact has to come before the case. Now, uniqueness and framing issue drop link controls uniqueness. Even if the economy is broadly fragile, a strong counterfeit industry has allowed legitimacy to barely survive. Yap makes every country in the world shut down all counterfeits as per 2AC crossfix, which instantly deletes trillions of dollars from the Chinese economy. The uniqueness counterfund solves it. It revitalizes stimulus and erases debt via spending, which solves the primary cause of why the Chinese the economy could be declining. Now that's the economist primitive with cannot shield. They dropped that the uniqueness counterfund is just enough to get China through it now, but the link collapses it. They've dropped that they also cause every country in the world to shut down counterfeits. Now, regardless of one class, our inmate evidence says China is doing broad control measures to revitalize the economy. It's grown 5% since 2025 and will continue to grow because the government has subsidized crucial sectors. Recovery happens now. The 1 trick evidence says that China is broadly investing in their economy, which is sufficient. Post-dates is irrelevant when their evidence is about a snapshot, not a broader trajectory. Remember, counterfeits are crucial for the legitimacy, even if growth is low. 1 Chow says the plan would broadly decimate employment in China, ensuring social unrest. Even if the economy is bad right now, people would lose their jobs in China post-plan, which is far worse. Now the link, it's massive. The 1 area is grasping at straws. They drop multiple arguments. First is revenue. Counterfeits account for trillions in the Chinese economy. They drop the 1 Wu evidence says that it's impossible to decrease counterfeits without decimating crucial industries. The other things also that way is 0. The 1 area didn't name a single industry, so the 2 area can't name them new regardless of Fleming 15. Evidence says that counterfeits are the linchpin of the Chinese economy and says that IP violations are specifically key. It doesn't zero the dissent. 8 billion is a figure without a warrant. Our evidence is explicit and says that it would alone decimate broader employment and have a spillover effect. It counts for millions in businesses alone and is massive. They didn't read the Chow Index, so the GR doesn't get to make it new. Now the Trump number doesn't apply because it's about legitimacy. Tariffs didn't affect counterfeits, and we're not going for this one broadly. Plus, uniqueness counterplan solves. He also didn't police counterfeits, and they didn't say that. Even if Trump dumps the economy, he doesn't dump counterfeits, which controls the directions of uniqueness. Plus, uniqueness counterplan solves cases and turn the dissent for above dropped. It doesn't implicate Chinese diversion because it's about legitimacy, regional conflicts. It's our argument since they trigger them. Now the declaration counterplan concede that it doesn't solve, not going for it. Reject the argument. Now the team we don't need a solve because we're going for the status quo. Now the advantage.
torts are strong and expanding. Their 1AC gram, or the framing issue is that they've read a lot of cards that may be recent, but they don't outline the torts that are critical for their scenario. The 1AC gram evidence says torts are facing a quote general expansion that it occupies far more, and says some torts like marital disputes and racist allegations are declining, but those are not key to regulation for drones. Examples go neg, things like strict liability, emotional distress, and negligent injury have all expanded, which is the gram evidence. They've conceded the index of their new evidence. The Shark evidence says it prevents risk in e-commerce, not drone regulation, which is entirely irrelevant to regulating drones. Now, Bernstein is wrong. It says expectable action can be reconciled with specific knowledge, which is totally irrelevant. Torts are rising as well. The McKnight evidence says tort system grew at 6%, which is broader and encompasses tort law. So you have to prefer it. Now, their new evidence is irrelevant. None of their Bernstein evidence says it doesn't say that e-commerce spills over to trademark broadly. The Williams evidence, first of all, if they win that the reform is happening now, that takes that uniqueness for the advantage, because it means that torts are high now. But these tort reforms, they never said that they will be successful, just that they're trying to implement it, and not that they are increasing right now, or that they matter. Now, drones do not spill over. Does that mean that China will first strike us first? But the plan is pro-trademark, anti-tort, because torts and trademarks are legally distinct. It doesn't matter if torts are common law, because trademarks are not common law, and using trademarks, because they are statutory, conceded from the other counterplan, it replaces torts in the legal system, which nukes spillover and triggers their impacts faster at worst, which is the 1AC gram evidence. Look, all their evidence on this advantage says that torts are being declining in other areas which are not relevant to drones, or do not name things that are relevant to regulations. Things like marital reform and racist allegations are totally irrelevant.
Cool. 146.
Do you want a card doc?
Nah, I can't read.
Okay, that's fine.
It's actually try or die AF. Drones outweigh both teams and agrees it happens by August, and it's only question who has a stronger internal link. It's decisively AF. We have two questionable indices and a search about August. We had 6 pieces of evidence that substantiate that e-commerce and CCA is critical. We've realized broader toward decline. A post-taken uniqueness from this year. We have some defense. We have some defense to the impact on the disad with assurances, and we have some internal link. We have some internal link to access that because China will strike faster. But it's a question of time frame, and only we have an actual time frame. We're going to say that's happened by August, which outweighs now. The 200 straight can drop. The time frame outweighs it. Control the direction of Trump's case. You can see the impact. You try or die flips AF. We uniqueness the torque performance happening now, and the torques are declining. And it's try or die. Regardless of the link level, we'll all die in 4 months before the Chinese economy even matters. Which is outweigh on time frame. China is a huge economy, and obviously moving confidence will move all the way immediately. I'll get to that more because their argument is actually asinine. But I'll line this up. They say which torques are decreasing. It's liability torques. All our evidence substantiates that's an average. Some torques are down, but yes, specifically our liability controls when when somebody aids and abets on illegal action, that is exactly the time of liability that after increases. That's increases. That's the adverse evidence. Trump is aiding and abetting illegal action by increasing drones, which is torts that immediately stop. They say short liability. They say like product liability and other distress, but those are increasing, but not. Even if those are increasing, the specific kinds of product liability is not. Even in liability is key to drones. Screwed up evidence says that liability and the way we determine contributory liability is how we solve drones. Trump is doing something illegal. You should be able to hold him accountable for illegal actions done by people that he's commanding. They drop the dong and it says that trademarks are common law. There's no trade-off between them and the common law torts. They just said that, oh, the plan is pro-trademarks, anti-torts, as if there's a distinction between trademark infringement and common law. There's not. We read 2 evidence on this. They've not read the Dog 22 says that contributory trademark infringement is a common law of torts. Pagum 22 says, Pagum 05 says happens in 1924 and it's intrinsic ties. Even if you agree that broadly trademarks are not a part of common law, our specific app is. That's why I cut it. That's why the app chart is so specific to the app in the e-commerce context of constructive knowledge, revitalizing and uneroding core tenets of tort law and established principles. Notice there's no displacement in the evidence as well. The snapshot of the broader grant card says the trademarks and torts are losing connection now with the app solved. If they say the trademark reform now, then don't need trademark and torts reform. Tort reform is a term of art that means you're decreasing the effectiveness of torts as a corporate strategy. The app reverses, they drop that, which is the internal link evidence I did all above with Monsavi and Graham. Now, they say Bernstein is not about e-commerce, but yes, the shark evidence is amazing. It says that in the digital age, it means, quote, new issues in tort law, but quoting, quote, I don't know, cheapest cost avoider and assigning liability to the entity that can most cost-effectively ensure safety on these all lines. Revitalize that to the 5th wave of e-commerce, straining tort law has not changed for hundreds of years, but all their unique evidence says that for the first 100 years of development, there's a lot of development because there's a lot of stuff that's covered in tort law. Now, we say we change the second part of it, which is the 5th wave of e-commerce, which is uniquely straining tort law. This is a shark evidence from last year that basically goes off. William and Gleason to that tort reforms happening 2025. Too not misunderstands. I mean, the torts are going down. Republicans are destroying it now. Rolling plans off. Uniqueness splits half. There's no response to this. Williams and Gleason, I'm warning a sufficient amount of the internal link for you to be very comfortable knowing that in 4 months we're all dead. So you have to do something about that because their impact happens later now. The impact extension. Trump swarms drones in the hellscape by China by August. The country immediate nuclear war. Troy Bergson and their defense not assume the Operation Hellscape and Trump with a unique scenario for escalation. You do not know how Chinese legitimacy buttresses assurances everywhere or how counterfeits are key to all of that. I'll get to that in just that. But you are sure that this happens now. China counterfeits. The two did not give a specific scenario for nuclear war other than vague lash out and assurance class that handled defense and internal link takeouts to both of them. First is assurance. They don't give any explanation on how assurance does cause a nuclear war. These are asserted that the assurance decline causes somebody that does nuclear miscalculate. Where we have a specific scenario for how China sees the drones being deployed in the US and Korea and attacked. They said the code evidence all don't follow for that. The ones are still true. It says that the detailed literature review suggests assurances do not matter. It flips the other way. This too much assurance takes out prolific nuclear war because allies are more likely, not less likely, to go to war. That means that even if they're uniquely likely to go nuclear now, assurance will not key to that in the first place. With the amount of assurance they defend themselves. When China lash out, both empirically denied and wrong. We find that China's economy has been low in the past and China completed its economic transition means it will not lash out. But the uniqueness does not, the link does not frame uniqueness. Our uniqueness is way better. I could have myself. Chinese economy is low now. There's falling bond yields, declining GDP growth for the past couple of years. And persistent consumer price inflation paints a concerning picture. All the evidence of CCP propaganda, which the Hampton Code explicitly says is not just a snapshot. It's a prediction about what will happen, and it talks about geopolitical analysis in consensus. That's hence the uniqueness comment. Couldn't solve enough of it, or uniqueness of the one with link. Permanently both solved it, right? Okay, there's a double bind. Either they solve so much of Chinese economy that the permanent vote definitely solves an overwhelming link, or if they're right, or it doesn't solve enough to the structural issues like falling bond yields, but there's no link. China fits are not all of China's economy. There's only 8 billion of China's $18 trillion economy. There is a comparison here. It's billion v trillion, but BRI, regional initiatives, and others all over on the link to the planet. China's other regional money sources. I think otherwise it's just racist because China, depending on counterfeits, come on. But they say it was for a little bit, it's not. The economy will not collapse. And Chow is wrong. We insert it because we get to insert highlighting those are very evidence comparison, but it says that it's only one center of counterfeits. All of the good lines that they draw, only about one specific city that is relying on counterfeits, not Chinese economy globally. And for the regional initiative, look, after the impact, it was dropped. It means that after 100% turn, we have at least some defense in pathways to get to their impact. We all will die in 4 months. Vote after avoiding that extinction to try our flips out. And there's my time.
Good debate, y'all. Is it okay if we record the decision as well? Sure. Okay.
I heard those mics are like really good.
Yeah, they probably are.